Okay, here we go with our review on fractions to make our precision measurements easier. A lot of students forget their fractions because they don't use them after 5th and 6th grade, 7th grade, whenever. So we'll just do a quick review on our fractions and our decimals, so that again, you go to measure things, it's a lot easier. So let's get started here. This may seem pretty fundamental, so if you already got a solid handle on this, you can go ahead and skip forward. But if you're a little unsure, you may want to pay attention for a couple minutes and we'll go over this. So fractions, 1/2. Again, remember our top number is our numerator and our bottom number is our denominator. The top number is how many pieces that we have. So if we divide something into pieces, that would be our fractions. The top number is going to be how many pieces we have, and the bottom number is going to be how many pieces it takes in total to make one whole. So in this case, it takes 2 pieces to make one whole, and we have one of those pieces. So we have 1/2 of the whole. So another fraction would be 1/4. Get that one out of the way. Excuse me, another fraction is 1/4. And again, we have 1 piece out of 4 pieces to make the whole. And as a decimal, 1/2 would be written as 0.5. 1/4 would be written as 0.25. So these are the same, just another way to write it. Another one, let's go with 3/4 or 3/4. So we have 3 of the 4 pieces to make one whole. And as a decimal, that's written as 0.75. And let's do one more. Let's go with 7/10 or 7/10. And as a decimal, that is going to be 0.7. Okay, so quick review on that. So decimal and fraction, it's just a different way to represent the same number. So how do we find the decimal version of a fraction? Typically, everything will be written down as a decimal because it's easier to work with mathematically. But people may say, 1/2, 7/10, 3/4, whatever, just because that's how they're going to refer to it. But we need to know how to find what the decimal is of a fraction. So to do that, we're going to go back to our long division and get that right off the screen there. And let's start with a half. So we have a half. How do we convert that to a decimal? Well, going back to long division, we're going to go to 1 divided by 2. And so obviously 2 can't go into 1. Oops. So we're going to add our 0 and our decimal point, and 2 can go into 10 5 times. So that's going to give us 0.5. So again, it'll be the same as 1/2 equals 0.5. 2 times 5 equals 10. So it'll be 10 and no remainder. So let's do another one, because that was a little quick. So let's go with 1/4. So that's going to be 1 divided by 4. And of course, 4 can't go into 1. So we add our 0 here and our decimal. But 4 can go into 10 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. We subtract that, and that gives us 2 left over. I'm going to go ahead and add another 0 here, bring it down, or our 20, and 4 can go into 20 5 times. So we add our 5 times 4 is 20, subtract that, and we have nothing left over. So our 1/4 is the same as 0.25. Grab a fresh sheet of paper. So by now your long division should be flooding back to you. Let's do another example or two, just to keep it going. So again, our 7/10, or 7/10, that's going to be 7. Let's go down a little further. 7 divided by 10, and of course 10 can't go into 7, so we're going to put our decimal and a 0 here, but 10 can go into 70, and it'll do that 7 times. So 7/10 is equal to 0.7 written as a decimal. And of course the easiest way, just bust out your calculator and 7 divided by 10 equals 0.7. So that's the easiest way. But so you don't have a calculator and you dropped your phone in the toilet and you got to do it by hand, that's how you would do it. So, all right, moving on. We've reviewed those things. How do we find the fraction of a decimal? Well, you basically reverse that process. So, if I wanted to make this into a fraction, if I didn't know it was already 7/10, I'm going to take 0.7 and I'm going to write it as the top number of our fraction. So I'm going to take 0.7 as the top number of our fraction, but I'm going to eliminate the decimal point because we don't use the two of them together. Then I'm going to put a 1 down here, and however many digits I have up here for my decimal, that's how many zeros I'm going to put in our denominator, or the bottom of our fraction. So that's going to be 7/10. So let's do another example. So let's say we had, what was our other one? 0.25. There's our 0.25. And so to convert this into a fraction, I'm going to say, I'm going to take the 25, put it on the top, and eliminate the decimal point. And then I'm going to put a 1 down here. And I'm going to add the same amount of zeros as I have digits in my top number. So 0, 0. So this is going to be 25 over 100. And we're then going to reduce this down. So 1 goes into, or excuse me, 25 goes into 100 4 times. That's going to be our bottom. And 25 goes into itself 1 time, so that's going to be a quarter. So 0.25, 25 over 100, and reduce down 1/4. So they all mean the same thing, just a different way to write it. So hopefully that was a quick review for you on that part of it. And when we're reading our micrometers, let me get a fresh paper here. Reading our micrometers, it is important to keep in mind how many digits you have past your decimal place. So you have our decimal, and then you have a digit, and a digit, and a digit. This first one is going to be our 10th place. And whenever you're talking like this, you're always going to end up sounding like Sylvester the cat and spitting a lot, because this is going to be our tenths place. Our second digit here is going to be our hundredths place. Hundredths. And our last digit here is going to be our thousandths. Thousandths place. Not sure if I spelled that right, but close enough. So remember, tenths, hundredths, thousandths to the right of the decimal. So if I'm writing my fraction and I have 0.1, that is 1/10. And I would say that, I have 1/10. And if I had let's go with 0.3. That would be, I have 3 hundredths. Okay, so I have 3 pieces out of 100 to make a whole. And lastly, we will have, let's go 0.008. So in this case, I have 8 thousandths. That'll be